This is the 12th part of the mini biographies of famous celebrities and people who passed away in 1971 in the United States. Before we proceed, please subscribe to our channel to support us. Edie Sedgwick. She was born in April 1943 and she died in November 1971. Her age was 28 at the time of her death, and the reason for her death was drug overdose. Edie Sedgwick was an American actress, model, and socialite who was one of Andy Warhol's superstars, starring in several of his short films during the 1960s. Her prominence led to her being dubbed an "It Girl," while Vogue magazine named her "Youth Quaker." Sedgwick broke with Warhol in 1966 and attempted to forge an independent acting career. However, her mental health deteriorated from drug abuse and she struggled to complete the semi-autobiographical film Ciao Manhattan. Sedgwick abstained from drugs and alcohol after meeting her future husband, Michael Post, and completed filming Ciao Manhattan in early 1971. Post and Sedgwick married in July 1971. She died 4 months later of an overdose at age 28. In March 1965, Sedgwick met artist and avant-garde filmmaker Andy Warhol at a party at the apartment of producer Lester Persky and began frequently visiting Warhol's art studio, The Factory in Midtown Manhattan. Pedia. He was born in February 1940 and he died in December 1971. His age was 31 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head. Pedia was an American stage, television, and film actor, best known for his starring role as outlaw Hannibal Hayes in the television series Alias Smith and Jones. He graduated in 1957 and attended St. Lawrence University in Canton, New York, where he majored in English. He was a member of Phi Sigma Kappa fraternity. He preferred performing in the drama department's productions to study for his classes during his 2 years there. When his father came to see him in the Rose Tattoo, he realized that his son was only wasting time and money at the university and told him to follow a career in acting. Moving to New York City, Jewel landed a role in the touring production of the comedy Take Her, She's Mine. To find work in movies, Jewel and his mother drove across the country to Hollywood, California in 1963 with only a tent to house them each night. In Hollywood, he found work in television, making small guest appearances in comedies such as Gomer Pyle, USMC, and dramas such as Channing Combat and Bonanza. Stuart Holmes. He was born in March 1884 and he died in December 1971. His age was 87 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. Stuart Holmes was an American actor and sculptor whose career spanned 7 decades. He appeared in almost 450 films between 1909 and 1964, sometimes credited as Stuart Holmes. Holmes was born Joseph Liebchen on March 10, 1884 in Chicago, Illinois, where he was educated. For 20 years, Holmes performed in vaudeville and on stage, with the latter often being in Shakespeare's plays. His work in the theater included a stint in Germany. Holmes' film career began in 1911 and ended with The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance in 1962. As a sculptor, Holmes created work for at least 3 California, United States post offices in Oceanside in 1936, Claremont in 1937, and Bell in 1937. Holmes's wife, Blanca, was an actress. Junior Parker. He was born in March 1932 and he died in November 1971. His age was 39 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was brain tumor. Junior Parker was an American blues singer and harmonica player. He is best remembered for his voice, which has been described as honeyed and velvet smooth. One music journalist noted, "For years, Junior Parker deserted down home harmonica blues for Uptown Blues soul music. In 2001, he was inducted into the Blues Hall of Fame. Parker is also inducted into the Mississippi Musicians Hall of Fame. He sang in gospel groups as a child and beginning in his teenage years, played on various blues circuits. His biggest influence as a harmonica player was Rice Miller, aka Sonny Boy Williamson II, with whom he worked before moving on in 1949 to work for Howlin' Wolf. Around 1950, he began performing with the coalition of performers in Memphis known as the Bale Streeters, which included Bobby Blue Bland and B.B. King. Bland was drafted into the United States Army in 1952 and was discharged in 1955. In 1951, Parker formed his own band, the Blue Flames, with guitarist Pat Hare. Roy O. Disney. He was born in June 1893 and he died in December 1971. His age was 78 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was stroke. Roy O. Disney was an American entertainment executive who co-founded the Walt Disney Company with his younger brother, Walt Disney. He also served as the company's first CEO and was the father of Roy E. Disney. Disney was born to an Irish-Canadian, Elias Charles Disney, and English-German-American Flora Cole Disney in Chicago, Illinois. On June 24, 1893, the family moved to Marceline, Missouri, and to Kansas City in 1911. On July 1, 1911, Elias purchased a newspaper delivery route for the Kansas City Star. It extended from 27th Street to 31st Street and from Prospect Avenue to Indiana Avenue. Roy and his brother Walt worked as a newspaper delivery boys. The family delivered the morning newspaper, the Kansas City Times, to approximately 700 customers and the Kansas City Star to more than 600. The number of customers served increased with time. Disney graduated from the Manual Training High School of Kansas City in 1912. He left the paper delivery route and worked on a farm in the summer. He was then employed as a bank clerk along with brother Raymond Arnold Disney at First National Bank of Kansas City. Max Tyler. He was born in May 1888 and he died in December 1971. His age was 83 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was congestive heart failure. Max Tyler was an Austrian composer and conductor who emigrated to America and became one of Hollywood's greatest musical composers. Steiner was a child prodigy who conducted his first operetta when he was 12 and became a full-time professional, proficient at composing, arranging, and conducting by the time he was 15. Threatened with internment in England during the First World War, he fled to Broadway, and in 1929, he moved to Hollywood, where he became one of the first composers to write music scores for films. He's often referred to as the father of film music, as Tyler played a major part in creating the tradition of writing music for films along with composers Dmitri Tiomkin, Eric Wolfgang Korngold, Franz Waxman, Alfred Newman, Bernard Herrmann. Steiner composed over 300 film scores with RKO Pictures and Warner Brothers and was nominated for 24 Academy Awards, winning 3, The Informer, Now, Voyager, and Since You Went Away in 1944. Besides his Oscar-winning scores, some of Steiner's popular works include King Kong in 1933, Little Woman in 1933, Jezebel in 1938, and Casablanca in 1942. Though he did not compose its love theme as time goes by. Bobby Jones. He was born in March 1902 and he died in December 1971. His age was 69 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was syringomyelia complications. Bobby Jones was an American amateur golfer who was one of the most influential figures in the history of the sport. He was also a lawyer by profession. Jones founded and helped design the Augusta National Golf Club and co-founded the Masters tournament. The innovations that he introduced at the Masters have been copied by virtually every professional golf tournament in the world. Jones was the most successful amateur golfer ever to compete at a national and international level. During his peak, from 1923 to 1930, he dominated top-level amateur competition and competed very successfully against the world's best professional golfers. Jones often beat stars such as Walter Hagen and Gene Sarazen, the era's top pros. Jones earned his living mainly as a lawyer and competed in golf only as an amateur, primarily on a part-time basis, and chose to retire from competition at the age of 28, though he earned significant money from golf after that as an instructor and equipment designer. Ferdinand Pecora. He was born in January 1882 and he died in December 1971. His age was 89 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. He was an American lawyer and New York State Supreme Court judge who became famous in the 1930s as chief counsel to the United States Senate Committee on Banking and Currency during its investigation of Wall Street banking and stock brokerage practices. After securing a job as a clerk in a Wall Street law firm, Pecora eventually attended New York Law School and became a member of New York Bar in 1911. Originally a progressive Republican, he became a member of the Democratic Party and Tammany Hall in 1916. In 1918, he was appointed as an assistant district attorney in New York City. Over the next 12 years, he earned a reputation in the city as an honest and talented prosecutor. Although he had little experience with Wall Street, he helped shut down more than 100 bucket shops. Ferdinand Pecora was appointed chief counsel to the United States Senate's Committee on Banking and Currency in January 1933 to replace Irving Ben Cooper by the outgoing committee chairman, Republican Peter Norbeck. Ralph Bunche. He was born in August 1904 and he died in December 1971. His age was 67 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was complications of heart disease, kidney disease, and diabetes. Ralph Bunche was an American political scientist, diplomat, and leading actor in the mid-20th century decolonization process and United States Civil Rights Movement, who received the 1950 Nobel Peace Prize for his late 1940s meditation in Israel. He is the first Black Nobel laureate and the first person of African descent to be awarded a Nobel Prize. He was involved in the formation and early administration of the United Nations and played a role in both decolonization process and numerous United Nations peacekeeping operations. He served on the U.S. delegation to both the Dumbarton Oaks Conference in 1944 and the United Nations Conference on International Organization in 1945 that drafted the United Nations Charter. He then served on the American delegation on the first session of the United Nations General Assembly in 1946 and joined the UN as head of the Trusteeship Department, beginning a long series of troubleshooting roles and responsibilities related to decolonization. In 1948, Bunche became an acting mediator for the Middle East, negotiating an armistice between Egypt and Israel. For this success, he was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 1950. Morris MacDonald. He was born in November 1902 and he died in December 1971. His age was 69 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was heart failure. Morris MacDonald, along with his brother Richard, co-founded the first McDonald's restaurant, pioneering the fast food industry. With their efficient service model, the brothers opened the original McDonald's restaurant in 1940 in San Bernardino, California, where they created the speedy service system to produce their meals, a method that became the standard for the fast food industry. After hiring Ray Kroc as their franchise agent in 1954, they continued to run the company until they were bought out by Kroc in 1961. The first restaurant the McDonald brothers opened in 1937 was in Los Angeles. In 1940s, the McDonald brothers operated a successful drive-in restaurant, but found several factors were cutting into their profits. Some of the more expensive menu items, such as barbecue sandwiches, were rarely ordered, and they used actual dishes, which were constantly lost or broken. Plus, the reputation of drive-ins becoming seedy hangouts for teenagers was driving whole families away. Thanks for watching the video. Please don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Have a nice day.